Welcome to State of the Sistahs. I'm Michelle J., your host. I'm an attorney that's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and practices in Chicago, Illinois. And I am your local political diva. Black women are rightfully projected to be a key voting demographic in the upcoming 2020 presidential election. They've earned this place by simply coming out in drones and voting loyally. In this space, I intend to prioritize Black women as it relates to policy discussions, legislative concerns, and politics in general. On the local front, school district consolidation is up for consideration in Illinois. There's been a task force formed that's bipartisan. It's called the Transform Illinois Task Force. It is tasked with the responsibility of cutting waste and spending. On March 12th of 2019, Illinois Democratic Senator Tom Cullerton and a coalition of his peers presented Illinois Senate Bill 1838. If put into effect, established the School District Efficiency Commission, and that commission would be tasked with identifying the number of school districts that Illinois actually needs, and would also be tasked with making sure there's optimal enrollment and the assessing the need for reorganization in different school districts. This legislation could either be a catastrophe for the individual interests of Black women or could also be a godsend. It's all dependent upon whether or not the interests of Black women are adequately represented in the commission. The downsides would take effect at the administrative level, that superintendents, staff, and administration would be the people who take the hardest hit. The question is whether or not Black women are in those positions and how Black women will be affected in the long run as it relates to that sort of downside. It would be my hope that more objective standards would be adopted. However, as it relates to the students, school districts in Illinois vary from containing 100 students to thousands of students, depending on where you are. And segregation is additionally a huge factor still present in Illinois. There would be a sincere need for subjective considerations as it related to the consolidation of the actual school districts. As it traditionally has occurred in Illinois, when it comes time to downsize, the first community that is attacked is the African American community. And if history is any indicator of what will happen in this case, that's problematic. It can't be said yet which way this will really pan out for African American women. However, it can be said that we need a seat at that table, and we need to make sure that we put pressure on our legislators to consider the things that we need considered in order for our needs to be met. The Trump administration has proposed a reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. The effect that the reauthorization would have would strongly be on student borrowing. Currently, students can borrow for their undergraduate degree up to $57,500 over their lifetime. Additionally, parents, guardians, and graduate students under the Plus Loan program are entitled to unlimited access to borrowing in order to meet their unmet need. The Trump administration proposes that creditworthiness be a consideration for both students and parents as it relates to access to Plus loans. Additionally, they also suggest that the Pell Grant program be expanded to include vocational programs. As it relates to Black women are undoubtedly the highest degree subset of minorities. This will absolutely affect us. Student loan debt is notably crippling the American economy. I cannot deny that. However, education is for African American women oftentimes our automobile for socioeconomic improvement. The considerations that the Trump administration proposes, specifically creditworthiness, quite honestly, is something that a lot of people in the African American community just don't have. It is noted over and over in studies that we earn less, that it takes us longer to earn more, it takes us longer to break out of different earning patterns and things of that nature. So, as it relates to African American women, I definitely give this reauthorization as proposed a thumbs down. I'd rather see more focus on trying to alleviate the actual debt as opposed to creating additional hurdles to getting access to education on the whole. Instead, there be some sort of consideration for how student loans are considered in our assessment of creditworthiness in the first place. That would be helpful. On the election side, the Illinois Supreme Court justice race is really heating up. We have a plethora of candidates to consider. It's a really exciting time. Justice Neville currently sits on the seat in place of Justice Charles Freeman, who stepped down in 2018. A little bit of background. Justice Charles Freeman was the first African American Supreme Court justice to ever be elected to the Illinois Supreme Court. Justice Neville was appointed by Justice Charles Freeman to serve out the rest of the term until the 2020 election. The candidates who are running include 3 African American candidates: Justice Cynthia Cobbs, who currently sits on the appellate court, as well as Justice Nathaniel House, who also sits on the appellate court, are running against Justice Neville. Additional candidates include Justice Sheldon Harris, Justice Margaret McBride, and Circuit Court Judge Sandra Ramos. Ideally, elect someone who truly understands the African American community and maybe even is a part of it. So that would be, from my experience, Justice Cobbs, Justice House, or Justice Neville. I think it's really important that we take the opportunity to really hold these candidates accountable for their records. Consider their voting patterns in the past, their involvement in the community, and really do your research with regards to these candidates, because the reality is that the Supreme Court justices impact us just exponentially more in terms of our interaction with the justice system than anyone else, as they have the power to overturn any of the lower court's rulings. So, hope this has been helpful. Thanks for tuning in for State of the Sistahs.